Good morning, students. Welcome to Model School webinars for Junior Inter. Today we have zoology, physics, math, and chemistry sessions. Children, in previous sessions of zoology, Miss JHANSI ma'am explained us about different types of epithelial tissue and muscular tissue, and also about the nervous tissue. Children, from all these above tissues, different organs and organ systems are formed, isn't it? But are these organs placed intact in our body? Yes or no? Yes, they are. But how? Let us learn today about other tissues in our body which give us shape, strength, and also act as transport system in our body. Okay. Please take a pen and also the running notes of the webinar sessions, especially maintained for zoology, and copy all the points, and please revisit the channel if you have missed anything. Okay. Today I welcome Miss JHANSI madam to take over the session. Good morning, madam.
Vijayalakshmi ma'am, good morning and thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for very
she's PGT and she's from Munipalli School, Model School, and also from Sangareddy district. Yes, good morning, ma'am. Please take over the session.
Ma'am, good morning, Vijayalakshmi ma'am, and thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction of the topic too. Dear students, as ma'am narrated, we already completed 3 different types of tissues in our previous classes. Today we are going to straight away start off with the 4th topic, and that is connective tissues.
Madam, please share the screen.
Yes. Can you see, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you can start.
Yes. Dear students, ma'am gave already a hint about the importance of connective tissue. She said that we find all the organs intact in our body, right? How is it that it is possible that you jump but your heart is in its position? It doesn't get disturbed. All the other organs are tightly packed, though you move, you do cycling, jumping, and all these things. It is because of this packaging tissue that is present in our body. See, you can see from this first slide, all the organ substances placed over here, and how they are well packed so that they don't collide with each other when they are transported from one place to another, or how they are segregated. So all these things, these cardboards and these pieces over here, they help in packaging, right? Whether to stay over there, separating them properly so that they are intact, or helpful so that they don't collide with each other and get damaged. So same thing is done even in our body with the help of this important tissue called as connective tissue. Connective tissue is most abundant tissue, one of the most abundantly found tissue in our body, widely distributed all through our body. Now, what does this connective tissue consist of? It consists of cells. We know any tissue we talk about, it is nothing but of cells. Cells are present and extracellular matrix is present. You already know about these cells, which perform the same function. We call them as tissue. And then outside cells, whatever material is present surrounding cells, that is extracellular matrix. Extracellular matrix over here in connective tissue plays a major role. It has immense role over here. So apart from these two things, connective tissue also has additional substance present in it, additional material that is present in it, which gives the quality and the importance what this connective tissue has. And that is nothing but fibers, thread-like structures. All the thread-like structures that form our piece of cloth or ropes, which are the threads which are joined together, parallelly arranged bundles. So fibers are there, which is another important aspect of our connective tissue. Now, when you come to origin means, I kept telling you even in the earlier videos, we talk about the tissue from which germ layer it has come. So here connective tissue is originated from, it has its origin from mesoderm. It is mesodermal in origin. Now, another important aspect of connective tissue is that you have spaces over here. There are some spaces spread out. Connective tissue is like this. Everywhere around you can find matrix, like bed, right? And then there are threads, fibers, and there are certain spaces present everywhere around. In these spaces are called as lacuna or lacunae plural, and in those spaces cells are present. So these are the four important parts of connective tissue. Now there is an analogy I have taken over here. So suppose if you are taking this blue color background as a matrix, right? In this matrix you find there are certain spaces available. Those spaces are called as lacuna or lacunae plural, and cells are present in these spaces. What is the function of these cells? Different cells are present according to the necessity of the tissue or the organ available wherever this connective tissue is there supporting it, doing that particular work. All the cells are of not the same type. And these cells are the cells which also secrete these fibers which are present in connective tissue. So types of connective tissues. Connective tissue is divided into proper connective tissue and specialized connective tissue. Specialized word itself says that it is special in some or the other aspect. Proper connective tissue is further divided into loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. The difference is that when you say it is loose connective tissue, the cells number is more. Fiber is present, matrix is present, but it is less in amount, less in quantity. But when you talk about dense connective tissue, here fibers are more. So the quantity of fiber, the amount of fiber is more, whereas you find less amount of cells and matrix. Fibers are more. So loose connective tissue is further divided into areolar connective tissue, adipose, reticular connective tissue. Dense is divided into regular, irregular, and elastic tissue. And then specialized tissue. We'll come back to specialized tissue a little later. First, let us start with loose connective tissue. And in that, we'll go first with areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue, as I mentioned in the very first slide, that any connective tissue consists of matrix. So whatever this color you are able to see, lavender color, whatever you might call it as light purple color, this is all matrix. In this matrix, you find all the cells and fibers spread around. So what are the fibers present over here? You can see this thread-like structures, this bundle which is over here. This is another bundle which is present over here. This is thread-like structure, fiber I'm talking about. This red color threads you are able to see over here, right? So that is another thread. This is blue color threads. All these fibers are not of the same type. They are not of the same type. You have three different types of fibers. They are collagen fibers and elastin fibers. We'll come across about it again a little later. Let's talk about first the cells that are present in areolar tissue. The first type of the cell that we talk about is the fibroblast cells. Whenever you come across the word blast in connective tissue, you take it for granted that it is the one which secretes, which releases either the fibers or the matrix. So blast means the cell which secretes fiber or which secretes the matrix around it. Inactive cells, that means they are simply present, they are not secreting anything. Inactive cells, we call them as fibrocyte. Towards the end, we have the word cyte. So here, the cells that are present in areolar tissue, one of the cells is fibrocyte, inactive cell, fibroblast, which becomes active, and when it is activated, it secretes fibers, right? So this collagen fibers, as you can see over here, the fibers that are coming out over here. So this is one of the types of the cells found in areolar tissue. Another type of cells that is found in areolar tissue is macrophage. Macrophages are WBCs. So here you can see these are WBCs that are present over here. WBCs which are formed in bone marrow. From blood, they come out to the tissues and they are spread in the tissues everywhere around. If you remember, I taught you about nervous tissue. And we have studied about the ventricles, the lining of the ventricles, ependymal cells. Those are microglial cells we have learned, and they do the job of phagocytic work. So here also macrophages are WBCs. Their work is to engulf any foreign particle, germ, bacteria that enters our body. So macrophages are present. So we finished two types of the cells, fibroblast cells and macrophages. The third type of the cell that is present in areolar tissue is mast cells. These are the mast cells that you can see over here. Mast cells produce certain important things, like for example, heparin, which is an anticoagulant. You know very well that whenever there is a cut or injury in our hand, blood oozes out, blood flows out. And after some time, you find the formation of a hard clot wherever there is damage, which is a blood clot. That means further flow of the blood is stopped. Did you ever think that why doesn't blood clot inside our body? Why can't blood become thick inside our body? Why should be the blood in liquid form thin so that it can keep running in the blood vessels? It is because of a presence of a substance called as heparin. So that heparin is produced by these mast cells. Mast cells also produce some other things, but let us have a look at the other slide of areolar tissue. I have put this slide over here to show you other types of cells which are not present in the previous slide. Previous slide is very clear actually. So let's look at the other type of the cells that are present over there. So I taught you fibroblast cells there. We have finished macrophages. We have finished mast cells, 3 types of cells. Fourth type of the cells that you find in areolar tissue is plasma cell. Here, this is the plasma cell. Plasma cells also take part in defense of the body, protecting our body. So the work of the plasma cell, they're actually derived from B lymphocytes. They come from there. So plasma cells produce antibodies, and antibodies help in protection of our body. How? We'll see that later. So apart from all these things, areolar tissue also have another type of cells called as adipocytes or fat cells. That means these are the cells which store fat. So let's have a look at this particular slide with all the things. You have fibers, which are reticular fibers. Then you have adipocyte cells, fixed macrophages. Now, why is the word fixed used over here? That means WBCs which come out of the blood, some of the WBCs, they keep moving throughout the tissue. That means like our army, when from one point to another, they keep moving, so that whenever they come across any foreign particle which is not part of our body, they just kill them. So they are wandering WBCs. Some of the WBCs, they are fixed in one place in the tissue. Whenever any foreign particle comes nearby, then they kill them. So they are fixed macrophages. Fixed macrophages are called as histiocytes. So here we have reticular fibers, fixed macrophages, plasma cells, fat cells, ground substance. This ground substance is nothing but matrix, which I shared with you earlier also. Ground substance consists of water, minerals, polysaccharides, proteins, monosaccharides. All these are the substances which are present over here. Then mast cells, just now I told you, these are elastic fibers, collagen fibers, fibroblasts, macrophages, mesenchymal cells. Mesenchymal cells, will come across this term once again. These are actually the stem cells which are derived from mesoderm. The importance of this we'll see later. And lymphocytes, again WBCs. So I told you about plasma cells, right? So plasma cells come from B lymphocytes. These are B lymphocytes. B lymphocytes, this is a process of immunity which we are not getting into in detail, but B lymphocytes, whenever there is an infection, then it starts producing 2 types of cells. One is called as memory cells and the other one is called as plasma cells. So whenever there is infection, that time these plasma cells, they start producing antibodies. These are the antibodies. Antibodies are Y-shaped proteins that are present in our body. And these are memory cells. What memory cells do is that whenever any infection takes place and these antibodies kill them, viruses, bacteria, or any organism that enters, they have specific proteins present on their body, on their surface, which we call it as antigen. So these antibodies combine with them. These antibodies recognize specific antigen and kill them. So which antibody has recognized which antigen, that is stored in memory by these memory cells, so that next time whenever any infection takes place, our body can kill that organism very quickly by secreting that particular type of antibody. This is how vaccination process also works. In case you did not understand anything, because it is related to immunity, you can leave that, but you just try to understand that I have just give you an explanation about plasma cells. Plasma cells are derived from activated B cells, B lymphocytes, WBCs, and these cells produce antibodies. Antibodies help in our protection of our body against foreign invasion. So this is how it is. See, these are the human cells, and whenever virus comes, that time these our human cells, that means our WBCs, these are WBCs. WBCs react with them. Can you see this Y-shaped structure? This is antibody. So these antibodies, they get attached to these antigens of the foreign bodies. Like this virus has come, antibodies, they get attached. Antibodies are antigen specific. That means they can recognize only a particular antigen, a protein that is present on the surface of these pathogens. If this virus has come, it has got this structure, so antibody will recognize. Some other virus enters with some other antigen, then our antibodies will not recognize them. It will take some time for our body to recognize and kill them. So this is the specialty of antibodies. Now, mast cells, as I mentioned earlier, let me come back to this. Mast cells, I told you that these are the ones which secretes heparin, produces heparin. We finished with that. And then mast cells also produce certain substances which are called as vasodilators and vasoconstrictors. Vaso means vascular blood vessels that we are talking about, right? So what are they? Vasodilators. They are histamine or histamine, bradykinin, 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 histamine. These two are considered as vasodilators. Vasoconstrictor, mast cells produces another type of substance called as vasoconstrictor, which is over here, serotonin. So you have one question actually, what are vasodilators and vasoconstrictors being produced or secreted by mast cells? This is the answer. Histamine, bradykinin, these two are vasodilators. Serotonin is vasoconstrictor. What do we mean by dilate? Dilating means enlarging, becoming big. Constriction means coming close by. So what are the things that it gets expanded in our body and they get constricted in our body? Those are nothing but blood vessels, that is our arteries. Now look at this. You can see these are the three structures that you can see, or down also you can see over here. So normal blood vessel, normal size of the lumen of the artery is this much. If it or serotonin is released, then you can see the size of the lumen has become small because muscles contract. Blood vessels, muscles contract. Smooth muscles are present, they contract. So the lumen becomes small. Now, vasodilator, you can see over here, the lumen is large. It is large because of the release of the substances like histamine and bradykinin. So the lumen becomes big, large. Why is it that you have, what is the need for body to make these blood vessels either short, that means to become small, the lumen to become small, or the lumen to expand? The reason is, if you want the blood supply to any particular tissue to increase, more supply of oxygen is needed there, or maybe tissues are under the repair process, they want more nutrients. So there the blood vessels should be large, more big, so that more amount of the blood can flow in. So there the dilation is needed. And whenever tissue is damaged, right, a particular tissue is damaged, blood tissue is damaged, and you don't want the blood to come out, there vasoconstrictors act. Actually, this is the first step in the process of clotting of blood. So whenever any blood tissue is damaged, our blood vessel is damaged, that time first the blood vessels constrict. It is because of vasoconstrictors, so that the muscles become small, the lumen becomes small, the flow of the blood to that is restricted. So this is the job of vasodilators and vasoconstrictors. Now, so much I spoke about areolar tissue. So where is this areolar tissue first of all present? Areolar tissue is present below the skin as subcutaneous tissue. This is a place where it is found abundantly. You can very clearly see where I'm moving this cursor, subcutaneous tissue. This part is all areolar tissue, where you find mast cells, fibrocytes, collagen fibers, all the fibers, everything is present over here. I'm going back to previous slide once again. I just want you people to have a look at this particular slide. You have over here reticular fibers. I told you fibers are the thin thread-like structures which are secreted by these cells only, like fibroblasts. Then we have collagen fibers, right? Collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and we have even elastic fibers. There are three types of fibers, but collagen fibers and reticular fibers, they both are made from the same type of protein. So protein is the same for both collagen and reticular fibers. It is white protein, which is nothing but collagen protein. Whereas elastic fiber is made up of elastin. Elastin is the protein over here. So elastic fiber is made up of elastin. So collagen fibers and reticular fibers are made up of collagen protein, and elastic fiber is made up of elastin protein. Again, what is the difference between these elastic fibers and collagen fibers is that elastic fibers are branched. You can find it forms branches. Whereas generally collagen fibers don't form branches, but reticular is branched. It forms network almost. The difference between reticular fibers and collagen fibers, both are made up of the same material. Both collagen fibers over here and this reticular fibers, they are made up of the same material, that is collagen protein only. Then why the difference? The difference lies in the thickness of the fiber. Collagen fibers, these fibers, they are very, very strong and they are very thick. They are strong and thick. And next important difference is they are stretch resistant. You cannot stretch them. You cannot stretch them. Whereas reticular fibers, these are thin. These are thin and they form a network supporting the organs. So this is the difference between reticular fibers and collagen fibers. So reticular fibers thereby help in support and binding, giving strength to the organs wherever they are present. So here, this is a slide showing fibers, how they appear. So as I said, about reticular fibers, they form network-like structure, and whatever is the material present inside the tissue or the organ, it provides support, as you find these structures providing support to the growing plants. So we can compare our organs like plants. Elastic fibers, these are like this. Elastin fiber is yellow in color and these are white in color. Adipocytes, these are the tissue, these are the cells which actually store fat storage. So this is how the areolar tissue is. Now let's move on to the next tissue, adipose tissue. Adipose tissue has lot of adipocytes. Adipocytes are the cells which store fat. So fibers and extracellular matrix is very low amount of matrix is present and fibers is present. Fibers are present, but cells are more in number. So let's try to, this is, if you see under microscope, you find the cells like this. So these are the adipocyte cells, right? You can see over here. Now let's try to look at one cell. This cell, the cytoplasm is present towards the periphery. That means cytoplasm is less in amount, scanty or peripheral cytoplasm is present, and there is nucleus on one side. So larger portion of this adipocyte is actually occupied by lipid molecules or the fat molecules, the very purpose for which it is created or it is there. So large amount of the cell is occupied by fat or lipids, right? Whereas cytoplasm is very less in quantity. It is present towards the periphery, very scanty, and then there is nucleus. So this is all adipocyte tissues. Where do you find actually this adipose tissue? Adipose tissue is present below the skin over here. Can you see all this yellow color cells, thick layer over here? All this is adipocyte tissues only, adipose tissue. Let's look at the function of adipose tissue. Adipose tissue, first we'll start with this. Aquatic organisms, just below the skin, there is a thick layer of adipose tissue. Like how our sweaters and sheeters or our shawls, warm shawls protect us. Why do we wear them during winter season? So that whatever heat is generated by our body, it will not go out. That means these material act as insulators. Similarly, even adipose tissue does the same job of insulation. Thick adipose tissue that is present in the animals is called as blubber. So because of this blubber only, these aquatic organisms are able to survive in cold waters, whether it is whale, dolphins staying very close to Arctic oceans or deeper parts of the sea and oceans. They are able to survive the cold temperature just because they have the thick layer of fat below them, which is nothing but blubber. Now the hump of the camel, you can see that this is the hump. This hump is also made up of this fat only, which is called as blubber. This tissue over here, this hump, it is made up of this fat only. Most of the people generally think that, oh, there is water actually stored over there, because of which camel need not drink water and it can go at a stretch, because we know that camel is the ship of the desert. But that is not the fact. Hump is not stored with water. Hump is actually fat. Whenever camel doesn't get enough of food, then obviously the fat over here becomes metabolically active, supplying energy to this camel. That time, if camel doesn't eat for longer period of time duration, the hump slowly it melts down. So the height of this, or the size of this, the thickness of this decreases. But once again, when camel gets enough food to eat, then again it develops that particular hump. Now, I don't know, most of the people who are generally fat, that means they have lot of fat material below their skin. All of us do have fat, that is blubber, but it is very thin. Fat people have more amount of fat in them, so blubber is more. Such people generally don't feel cold. They can survive cold conditions. Now, this is the fat layer that I'm talking about, which is present. If we study the structure of the skin over here, so this whole thing that I'm talking about is this fat tissue, adipose tissue that I'm referring to, which is called as blubber, which is found in dolphins, whales. The earlier organism was seal, cow sea, sorry. Okay. Now, types of adipose tissue. We have two types of adipose tissue. One is called as what? That is white adipose tissue. The other one is called as brown adipose tissue. White adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. Where is this white adipose tissue found? White adipose tissue is found actually in adults. It is found in adults, in human beings, adults I'm talking about. Whereas brown adipose tissue is found in infants and fetuses, growing embryos. It is found over there in fetuses and embryos. So one difference we have learned, what white adipose tissue is found in adults, whereas brown adipose tissue is found in fetuses or embryos, the small babies, right? Let's learn the other two differences. You can see over here that the size of the fat tissue over here is very big, whereas these are small, right? Here in each cell, only one molecule, one big size, one big drop of fat molecule is found. So we call this as unilocular, locule, big space. Unilocular means only there is one space. One cell has got one space, right? One cell has got only one area, one small area. In that one small area, one fat molecule is present. So it is called unilocular. Whereas if you talk about brown adipose tissue, this is multilocular. There are many spaces present, and in many spaces, many fat molecules are present. So we call this condition as multilocular. So second difference between white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue is that this is unilocular. There's only one fat molecule, and here you find there are multiple fat molecules present. So this is called as multilocular. The size of the fat molecule over here is big. The size of the fat molecules are small. So small lipid molecules are present over here. You know that lipids are fats, right? Next, the third difference. Third difference is that white adipose tissue, here you don't find presence of the powerhouse of the cell. What is the powerhouse of the cell? Mitochondria. Here you generally don't find mitochondria, but there is a lot of mitochondria present. That means in small children, we find brown adipose tissue present, and this is metabolically active. Metabolically active means this helps in giving warmth to the children because this fat is broken down to release energy. This is metabolically active because heat is generated from this material, from this lipid, and because heat is generated, here you find a lot of mitochondria. So three differences we have learned between white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. Let's look at the places, the location where it is found generally. So here you find brown adipose tissue in children, how it is spread out, and in our case human beings, it is like this, being spread out. Brown adipose tissue, multilocular, many places you can find them. Now, adipose tissue in human beings, generally where it is located, this slide shows all those places where adipose tissue is spread out in human beings, right? Now, we finished with the second type of tissue in connective tissue. First one was areolar connective tissue, and the second one being the adipose tissue, fat cells, right? The third type of tissue over here is reticular tissue. Before itself, I told you, what is this reticular tissue? Reticular tissue specially consists of the cells which secretes reticular fibers. So one of the, this slide, I already showed you in my epithelial tissue video, right? every epithelial tissue is found present on a platform which we call it as basement membrane. A part of this basement membrane is secreted by epithelial tissue, a part is secreted by connective tissue below it. So this part is reticular lamina. So this reticular tissue secretes this reticular lamina. This is the place where reticular tissue is present. Next, reticular tissue is very, very important and found protecting all the lymphoid organs. Lymphoid organs are the organs which play a vital role in protecting our body against foreign invasion. So these are all the places where you find the lymphoid organs present. Maybe you have heard about small children saying that they suffer from tonsils, right? You have over here near pharyngeal regions, tonsils are present. Pharyngeal tonsils, which is also called as adenoid, a part of pharynx. Then thymus. Thymus is an endocrine gland. I showed you this also, which is very close to heart, right? This is a place where actually lymphocytes, WBCs, become functional. They become mature and they become functional over here, thymus. Then bone marrow, the material that is present within the bone, that is called as bone marrow. So all these are the places. Lymph nodes, they are the small round structures that are present throughout the body. Everywhere around you find them. Spleen is another important organ, which is very close to stomach. Very important organ, spleen. You have Peyer's patches. This is in small intestine. Peyer's patches play the important role of lymphoid organ. And not only that, whenever you take food inside, you find that any bacteria that has crossed even stomach and it has gone there. Action of hydrochloric acid also, those things get killed up here in a small intestine because of this. And appendix, and last one, once again, lymphoid nodes. They are the small round structures present. So these are all the lymphoid organs wherein WBCs are produced, stored, and they help in filtering the blood, filtering lymph, and protecting our organs and our organism, that means ourselves. So let's talk about spleen. One of the organs that I have taken over here is spleen. The outer covering of this is made up of this reticular tissue. The cells are like this. These are the reticular cells which secrete this reticular fibers, forming a network, and that network protects or provides support strength to this spleen. Talking about spleen and liver, once again we'll come across these terms even further. Liver and spleen are the places where actually blood is produced initially during embryonic stage, fetal stage, or immediately after birth. So spleen and liver are considered as cradle of RBCs and at the same time graveyard of RBCs. Why we say cradle? Because RBC blood is produced over there initially. Later on we call them as graveyard because degradation of RBCs take place in this particular organs. So this is liver, very important. Spleen, very important organ, and this does the work of filtration. Filtering of blood takes place over here. So we finished finally with the first type of tissue, that is our loose connective tissue. So let's go through the slide which shows, which is a summary of all the things that we have studied. Areolar type, which is packaging and you find it in subcutaneous layer. Adipose tissue, blubber, which helps in maintaining the heat of the body, right? Very important part is blubber. We have seen actually its way of working, brown adipose and white adipose tissues also. And reticulate tissue, reticular, we have seen where it is found in lymphoid organs and reticular lamina. One important part of blubber, why actually blubber is metabolically active in small children and that is infants and not in adults, is that in the fat that is stored in our body it remains as fat in our body. It is not broken down. Whereas if you talk about the fat that is present in small children, it is broken down. And why it is brown in color? It is because of vascular supply. That particular fat is supplied richly with blood vessels. That is the reason it is brown in color. Vascular supply gives it its color of brown. Okay. So let us once again come to the previous slide, what we have learned about the types of connective tissue. So connective tissue is divided into proper and specialized. We finished with these three types of tissues. That is areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue. We have seen where they are situated, location, cells, etc. Now let's move on to the second type of tissue that is present over here, which is dense connective tissue. Dense. We say that our country is densely populated. Means lot of material is packed up in less space. When something is like that, we say it is dense, right? So dense, three types, right? So dense connective tissue, under that, what comes over here? We are talking in dense connective tissue about fibers. Here, importance is given to fibers. Number of the cells, less. Extracellular matrix, very, very negligible. So dense connective tissue, you have already seen this slide. You remember this. So, you know, this is our muscle, and muscle is connected to bone. I already told you connective tissue's work is to provide strength, support, attachment, etc. So here, this is tendon. Why we say it is regular connective tissue here is because the collagen fibers, white color fibers which are present, they are all arranged properly. Parallelly, they are all arranged forming bundles. That is the reason we say they are regular connective tissue. They are all properly, parallelly arranged bundles. That is the reason they are called, this is called as dense regular connective tissue. So one such example is tendon. We have already learned about this tendon. Similarly, you have another tissue present under dense regular connective tissue, and that is ligament. In 9th class itself, you have learned that bone is attached to another bone with the help of ligament, whereas muscle is attached to bone with the help of tendons. We have another slide showing the same thing. So here, this is the skeletal muscle. We know what is skeletal muscle, muscle attached to bone. The skeletal muscle is attached to this bone with the help of this tendon. So tendon helps in attachment, providing this. And then you have this ligament. This ligament, so this is a ligament. What is this ligament doing? Ligament is attaching this bone with this bone. So two types of dense regular connective tissues we can find over here. Ligament attaching bone to bone, and tendons attaching muscle to bones. So next, let's go on to the next one. Next type, that is dense irregular connective tissue. Irregular connective tissue, here also you find the tissue is very strong. The fibers are there, they are very strong. Only thing is they are not arranged parallelly. They are distributed in a form of a network, otherwise not properly arranged. That is the only difference. So examples over here. Examples for dense irregular connective tissue. Pericardium of heart, we have already learned about pericardium in epithelial tissue. So part of that pericardium of the heart is made up of this irregular connective tissue. And heart valves, you know, there are 4 openings over here in heart. You have already studied in 10th class that deoxygenated blood flows over here, right? From here it flows over here, then through this blue it goes to lungs, right? And then this part from here you get oxygenated blood. From this aorta, oxygenated blood goes to all parts of the body. So there are holes, openings into this heart. All these holes or the openings that we are talking about, they are all guarded by valves. So what is a valve? Valve is a type of one-way door. That means they don't allow the backward flow of blood. Now we know that veins are the ones which get the blood back to our heart, right? So the blood that is coming back, that is climbing upwards, should be actually going back due to gravity, but that is not happening in veins. Why? Because at regular intervals you find valves present. They make the blood to go up, not the backward flow. So all the valves of this heart, they are all made up of this tissue. This is irregular connective tissue, and irregular connective tissue is all made up of collagen fibers, thick collagen fibers. So what are these valves over here? You have between this right atrium, right ventricle, there is an opening present, and you can see these white strands present over here. So this is tricuspid valve. And then here you have bicuspid valve, which is also called as mitral valve. This is on the left side, left atrium and left ventricle. Similarly, the blood that is pumped to veins, we call it as pulmonary valve. And the blood that goes to all parts of the body, we call it as systemic valve. That is aortic valve. So all these 4 valves are provided with this dense irregular connective tissue. Now, as I mentioned before itself, that pericardium of the heart is also made up of this fibrous connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue. This is the picture which actually shows the layers of heart. Let's go from here. So this is endocardium. That means this endocardium comes in contact with blood. This is the one which comes in contact with blood, the inner surface. Then as you go out, you have middle layer, myocardium, right? And then you have this layer, which is called as epicardium. Then there is space over here, pericardial cavity. This is a space which is filled up with fluid. which helps, does the work of absorption of mechanical shocks whenever you move. And then this is pericardium, parietal pericardium, fibrous layer. So these layers are made up of this dense irregular connective tissue. Now, there are two other places where dense irregular connective tissue is found. It is found as mucous membrane in growing fetus and embryos when the child is growing inside the womb of the mother, uterus, and also it is present in umbilical cord. You already know that placenta is the one which forms the connection between the growing embryo and mother. Through there, you find the supply of the nutrients, oxygen, etc. But again, placenta is connected to the child through the cord, which is called as umbilical cord. So this umbilical cord inside, it is made up of this connective tissue only, dense irregular connective tissue, which is called as Wharton's jelly. So in embryos, growing embryos, you find a type of dense irregular connective tissue, which is actually called as mucous membrane. And we find this dense irregular connective tissue even in the umbilical cord, which is called as Wharton's jelly. So here you find that. So what is this umbilical cord? Connection between the growing embryo and placenta is connected to the uterus. Next, dense irregular connective tissue is also found in the wall of the arteries. You have already studied this in the epithelial tissue. You remember this? This is the lumen, the space where the blood flows. And then you remember this circle, the first one, squamous epithelial tissue, endothelium. Then the wall of the artery is made up of three layers. This is the middle layer, which is muscular layer. Smooth muscles are found here. It is not under your control. And this thick outside region, which is collagen fibers. So this is dense irregular connective tissue, which is present outside. Next, dermis of the skin. You find this dermis. We know skin is divided into actually three regions if you go detailed. That is epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. Hypodermis, we have already seen adipocytes, adipose tissue is present over here. This tissue that you are talking about, dermis, this all is made up of connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue. Now let's move on to the third part, and that is the elastic connective tissue. So we have studied dense connective tissue is of three types. We already finished with dense regular connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue. Now we have come to the third part of connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and that is elastic connective tissue. Take it for granted, wherever you come across the word elastic, it is made up of elastin fibers. Elastin fibers. As the name itself indicates, elasticity, these are the fibers which have that elastic nature. That means you can stretch them like a rubber band, elastic material, and when you remove the force, they can come back to their original shape. So that is the reason why this is called as elastin. Now, the places where they are found, let's have a look at this. So first thing is that you can find over here larynx, trachea. In the trachea dividing into branches, yes, you find over here. Then in the vocal cords, you know what are these vocal cords? Larynx, the first part of a windpipe or the trachea, it is called as a sound box. So from top, that means if larynx is present over here, you stand over here and look at like this, then you can see these two flap-like structures. These two flap-like structures, which are called as vocal cords. When the vocal cords are closed, you find like this. When the vocal cords are, vocal cords are there closed, both the flaps come closer. When they are open, you find air gushing out from here. Actually, these vocal cords, they are present like this. They are present like this, and they flutter when the air gushes out. When the air is moving out, these two vocal cords, they flutter, producing the sound. That is the reason they are called, these two are called as vocal cords. Even in birds you have, and in birds we call it as syrinx. So elastic connective tissue is found over here. Elastic connective tissue is also found as in ligament in between two vertebra as intertransverse ligament. You know that this is the backbone of the body. This is the backbone. Backbone is the one that actually segregates organisms, animals, into two types as chordates and non-chordates, right? So our backbone is not one straight rod. If that was the case, then you fall down and you break, finish. Your life will be over forever then. It is not like that. Backbone, our backbone is made up of bones which are on top of the other arranged like this, as you can see. So each singular bone is called as vertebra. and plural is called as vertebrae. So in between these two vertebrae, you find this elastic present in the form of elastic ligament, providing support like the pillars. How you find the pillars supporting our houses, in the same way these elastic ligaments provide that kind of support over here. So what we are learning over here is about elastic tissue. So far what we have finished with areolar tissue, loose connective tissue. We have finished with dense connective tissue, regular, irregular, and elastic. All this we have finished. Now we'll move on to the specialized type of tissue that is found over here. So what is that specialized tissue? Specialized tissue under this, this is of three types, right? Bone is further divided into two types: spongy bone and compact bone, blood, and then cartilage. So these are the three important types of specialized tissue. We'll start first with cartilage. So we also call that particular specialized tissue as skeletal tissue. So skeletal tissue, supporting tissue, is of two types: supporting tissue and cartilage. Cartilage and bone, these two are the supportive tissues. Cartilage and bone, they are considered as a supportive tissue of our body. That is skeletal tissue. We are studying it under skeletal tissue. Can you see this? This is a picture of a rubber band, a strip of rubber band, right? You can bend it slightly. Bend it. That means it is pliable. Pliable means which you can bend slightly. Not totally bend. If that is the case, then it will break into pieces, right? But can you take this and then try to compress it? That is, use your pressure, your force on it and make it small. Compression, it is not possible. So why I quoted over here this particular example is that our cartilage is like this only. So what is cartilage? Now, in the beginning itself, I shared with you that in connective tissue, there are two important things which are very, very essential. One is the matrix, that is the ground substance where these are present, and second one is fibers. We have already seen the importance of fibers, right? Here, let's study about cartilage. In cartilage, matrix is very, very important. So, in general, any cartilage, it consists of matrix. One example of cartilage, I'll tell you before I go further. Your pinna, this external ear, what you're able to see, this is example of cartilage. This is example of cartilage. Yes, you can just move it around everywhere. So this is example of cartilage. Cartilage consists of matrix, right? Inside this matrix, of course, fibers are present. Quantity of the fiber varies, right? According to the type of cartilage it is. And then there are spaces present here. I told you before only, no, that when you are talking about connective tissue, spaces are very important. So spaces are present over here, which we call it as lacuna. And inside these spaces, there are special cells present. And these cells are called as chondrocytes. Chondrocytes, inactive cell, chondroblast if they secrete matrix. So everywhere around you can find this chondrocyte. This space is present over here, which you can see lacuna, and these are the chondrocytes. The function of the chondrocyte is to secrete matrix. So then they become chondroblast. So this is chondrocyte cell. Space, mitochondria present, powerhouse of the cell, nucleus, chondrocyte, right? Now, when you talk about, let's first try to understand few other important points of cartilage. Cartilage is semi-rigid type. I'm saying semi-rigid because you can slightly bend it, as I have shown you the strip of rubber band, right? It is like that. So you can just try to compress, it won't get compressed. That means the matrix over here is firm. It is very firm. It can be bent, but then you cannot totally try to compress it. Compression is not possible. Another important point of cartilage is that it is avascular. That means this is not supplied with blood vessels. It is avascular in nature. So then how is it that these cells get their oxygen and supply, food supply? It is because of the diffusion. Whatever nearby material is present, through the diffusion process, the material goes inside. Hello? There are three types of cartilage. One is hyaline cartilage. Hello, Vijayalakshmi ma'am?
Yes, you can continue, madam.
Okay. No, I thought there was some different disturbance. So types of cartilage, any cartilage we take, We can find over here matrix present. This blue color layer is a matrix. All the spaces are distributed, right, which we call it as lacuna. Inside this lacuna, you find chondrocyte, right, the cells which secrete this matrix, and also fibers are present, right. So the first type of the cartilage that we are able to see over here is called as hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is the weakest cartilage of all the three cartilages. This is the weakest of all. Where is this cartilage? As you can see, the color of this cartilage, it is bluish white in color, and it is translucent. That means light can pass through this, but not very clearly. So it is translucent, bluish white in color. You have also one important question, which is the weakest cartilage? That is hyaline cartilage. Let's look at the places where this cartilage is located. First one as costal cartilage. Now, what is this costal cartilage? Costal cartilages, just try to follow this. You can easily understand. Blue color represents the ribs. There are 12 pairs of ribs, 24 rib bones, right? Costal cartilage, all this yellowish color, and then sternum. So sternum is the front bone. This is the front bone, which is also called as breastbone. And this, can you see this 11, 12? These are the vertebrae, which I mentioned to you already about. So this is a backbone. So backbone and front bone are connected by these ribs. And now let's come to the main important point. Ribs are connected to the sternum with the help of this cartilage that we are referring to. That is hyaline cartilage. So ribs which are present on the side, they are connected to our front bone, sternum, with the help of this cartilage, which is costal cartilage. So here it is found, connecting ribs to breastbone or sternum. Next, it is found as articular cartilage. Can you see this? This is a limb bone and this is another bone. In between these two bones, whatever space is present, this is called as actually, this is filled up with cartilage. Now we are referring to this part. Just try to look at this part. This part is the free end part. We say free end or free surface of this long bone. Similarly, this end, this is another bone. The free end of this bone is this part. So the free surfaces of the bones are covered with this hyaline cartilage, which here in this condition is called as articular cartilage. This is called as articular cartilage. Now here at this particular junction, I would like to also speak about something called as covering of this hyaline cartilage, which is actually called as perichondrium. Can you see this? P-E-R-I, perichondrium. This. So this cartilage is covered on the top or outside with the help of this perichondrium. Now one exception. Perichondrium is absent here in articular cartilage. Here perichondrium is absent. But in every other type of hyaline cartilage, this is present. The connection between one bone and another bone, the ligaments, bones, the capsule over here, everything present, we call it as joint capsule. This is at the knee, elbows, you can find this. Okay. The other places where you find hyaline cartilage in cyclostomes, these are jawless vertebrates. Jawless vertebrates, they don't have jaws. Now, hyaline cartilage is the actually endoskeleton of vertebrates, some of these vertebrates. So shark, which is very furious animal in Predator, we have so many movies based on this shark, but this shark doesn't have bones inside. We have bones, so our endoskeleton is made up of bones. But jaws, if you talk about this sharks, their endoskeleton is made up of this cartilage, that is hyaline cartilage. So fishes are of two types. If their endoskeleton, inside skeleton, supporting skeleton is made up of bones, then we call them as I don't have that particular slide over here, so leave it. They are called as, this is cartilaginous fishes slide. That means here the bones are made up, the endomaterial, inside material, skeleton material is made up of cartilage. So this is cartilaginous fish. And those fishes where endoskeleton is in the form of the bones, we call them as osteichthyous fishes. Osti means bones. So all the other types of fishes where fins are present, those are the bones with bones inside, osteichthyous fishes. Whereas cartilaginous fishes, here fins are present as a single streak, which we call them as rays, electric ray, all these fishes. So fins are not like the other normal fishes you find. So these are the fishes having endoskeleton made up of cartilage, which is hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is also present in the form of epiphyseal plate. Please try to understand this diagram, very, very important, because we'll come across this once again future also, in future slides. This is no doubt the structure of bone. This is a long shaft of the bone. So the bone can be divided into 3 regions. See, just now I showed you articular cartilage, no? Hyaline cartilage, this one, the free surface. See here also, this blue color line, the free surface. This is articular cartilage. Now, bone is divided, this lengthy bone is divided into 3 parts. This is the first part of the bone. This is the first part of the bone, right? This is one part, this part. This is another part of the bone. This is the middle part of the bone. So from this end, where the cursor is still here, this long part is called as diaphysis of bone. This is called as diaphysis of bone. And this first region is epiphysis. The head region of the bone is epiphysis. There is a small region present over here, which is called as metaphysis. Bone is divided into 3 parts. The head region of it is called as epiphysis. There is a small region over here, which is called as metaphysis, and the long part is called as diaphysis. Same thing here also. Head region is epiphysis. You find small middle region over here, metaphysis, and then finally begins this diaphysis. So where this epiphysis is present, you can see one thin line, epiphyseal plate. This is also made up of articulate hyaline cartilage. So these are the 3 parts of bone. Inside this bone, this cavity is present, space is present, which is filled up with marrow. Bone marrow cavity, we say. So epiphysis, metaphysis is the small region you find, which is the growth over here. This region which keeps growing, and then this is diaphysis. So as nasal septal cartilage, nose, you find nose bridge dividing a nose into 2 parts. Each part is nasal cavity. So as nasal septum is any partition, anything which acts as a partition. So this is a septal cartilage, it is present. Nasal septal cartilage, here you can see. So the cartilage present over here is hyaline cartilage, the weakest cartilage. As trachea, we know this. I already told you about trachea. Trachea is made up, larynx. Larynx is made up of 9 cartilages. Larynx is made up of 9 cartilages, and all these 9 cartilages are nothing but this weak cartilage, which is hyaline cartilage. Now, you're all familiar with one of the type of cartilage, which is epiglottis, right? Flap-like structure, which prevents the food from entering into the trachea. So epiglottis. Then you have thyroid cartilage, cuneiform cartilage, corniculate cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, right? Cricoid cartilage. These are the different cartilages of larynx. Now, at this junction, you don't have to remember all these names. I just introduced you because you have in the second year at this particular point. So larynx is made up of 6 cartilages, out of which 3 are paired. So all these cartilages are made up of this hyaline cartilage. The second type of cartilage is elastic cartilage over here. Elastic cartilage, here you find abundance of elastic fibers. Even collagen fibers are present, but their number is less. You find lot of elastic cartilage. The yellow color fibers are present over here, network branched fibers. So see, any cartilage you see, you find pericardium, which is made up of fibrous connective tissue. Then you find spaces, matrix is present, all this blue color. Then spaces are present, lacuna, and inside those spaces, chondrocyte cells are present. And these are the cells which secrete this matrix, and fibers are present. Lot of elastic fibers are present. So matrix, blue color, elastic fibers, pericardium, right? The covering is pericardium. Now, where do you find this elastic fiber? It is present in the pinna. In the beginning only I told you, example of external cartilage is this pinna. Then as eustachian tube, this is the eustachian tube. What is this eustachian tube? It is a connection between ear and mouth. Connection between ear and mouth. See this pinna, this is made up of elastic cartilage, right? And this eustachian tube is made up of elastic cartilage. Ear is divided into 3 parts. You have already learned this in your ninth class sense organs. The first part consists of ear, that is external pinna. This is auditory canal and eardrum. This is the first part. This is the middle part, which has got 3 sets of muscles, 3 types of muscles, and this is the internal ear carrying the messages, right? So this middle part is connected to mouth with the help of a tube, which is called eustachian tube. So this is made up of elastic cartilage. Now, another one, before itself, I told you about epiglottis. Epiglottis is mainly made up of this elastic fibers. So elastic fibers are present in all these things. That is elastic cartilage. Now, fibrous cartilage. That till now I was speaking about before hyaline cartilage, saying that this is the thickest cartilage. This is the thickest, the weakest cartilage, right? Hyaline cartilage is the most weakest cartilage. The thickest cartilage, the strongest cartilage is fibrous cartilage. Here, this is made up of, again, white collagen fibers. So one important part of fibrous cartilage is that it has got no pericardium. The outer surrounding surface is not there. Pericardium is not there. So you find over here matrix being present, right? Let's try. No pericardium. Can you see this very clearly? It's written over here. So you find chondrocytes. These are present in rows. When you say isogenic groups, that means uniformly they are distributed. So this is all collagen fibers. Where is this fibrous cartilage present? This is present in between pubic symphysis. What is pubic symphysis? This part which you are able to see, this represents a pectoral girdle of our skeleton system. You have two girdles. One is on top over here. This is a pelvic girdle. Sorry, this is pectoral. I'm very sorry, children. Over here, this is pectoral girdle, and this is pelvic girdle down, hip region, pelvic region. So over here, this helps to the attachment of the shoulders, bones, muscles, etc. And down to this pelvic girdle, our limbs are attached. Here you find the surface, right? This, can you see this? This is arytenoid, where the limbs are attached on both the sides. So this girdle is made up of three types of bones which are fused together. That is ischium, pubic. These are the bones which are three bones which are fused together. So this whole bone is divided into two halves. One this side, the other one is this side. Now here, please concentrate where I'm showing this cursor. This is the place where this fibrous cartilage is present in this pelvic girdle. It is present in pelvic girdle. Next, another one, intervertebral disc. Between one vertebra and another vertebra, where they are placed, again this is present. So fibrous tissue, fibrous cartilage is present over here. So dear students, for today, I'm going to stop over here. Let's have a very quick look of all the three types of fibers that we have studied. I'm going back to this one. We have studied loose connective tissue, areolar connective tissue, subcutaneous layer, adipose tissue, fat layer, reticular, lymphoid organs, regular ligaments and tendons, irregular connective tissue. I have shown you a lot of examples, elastic, and then cartilage, types of cartilage. So let's try to close for today and continue tomorrow with the next type of skeletal tissue. I'm sorry, that is osseous or bone tissue. We'll start with this tomorrow. Whatever I have taught over here today, please go through your textbook, make a note of all the points. Wherever you have doubts, you can get back to your teachers. Thank you very much for today. Vijay Lakshmi ma'am.
Yeah, madam, it was very, very informative and elaborative explanation, ma'am. And the students would be definitely benefited from this session. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Students, please revisit the channel and complete the notes. As ma'am told, you just, if any doubts are there, you can ask in the live chat, or you can ask your concerned subject teachers. Okay, please stay tuned, children. Just we'll take 2 minutes break and we come up with the physics session. Thank you, children.